Hello and welcome to Scilence, a podcast where women get really honest about surviving and thriving in what often feels like a man's world. My guests are Wonder Women from the fields of science, technology, engineering and mathematics, or STEM, where inclusivity and diversity can be a real problem. I know this only too well as a female Southeast Asian mechanical engineer. I'm kind of a minority within a minority. I'm Dr. Shani Somara, an engineer turned broadcaster. Throughout my career, I've worked on and reported on some cutting-edge technology and innovation. And through my TV work, I've met some incredibly inspiring women from a diverse range of STEM fields. Talking to these exceptional ladies has often left me feeling empowered, hopeful, and excited about life. I believe that Scilence will enrich you too. Every week, a woman in STEM shares her unique experiences with absolutely no pressure in having to promote her accomplishments or guard her impressive reputation, because I've come to realise that everyone's just way more open and relaxed when they're anonymous. So I deliberately disguise my guest voices so that we're just connecting as human beings rather than human doings. It's my hope that you really relate to what we chat about today. If so, please do subscribe to Scilence and maybe even rate and review the show. I'd love to have your feedback. This week, my guest is in the field of mathematics. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Of course.
So, mathematics, huh? That's pretty, to be studying something that pure and simple, well, not simple, but just pure in its label, mathematics is pretty impressive.
Thank you.
How's it going?
It's going well. I think I just recently graduated with an undergrad degree in math, and I will be pursuing my PhD in mathematics starting this fall.
Gosh. Oh, wow. I can't imagine what that would be like to be studying something like that, because when I was doing my PhD, it was very mathematical, but it was always linked to the real world, being, in engineering. Like, what's a PhD in mathematics like?
So it's a lot more abstract,
Mm,
obviously. Um, and I think it's more like a lot of work with professors who are already in research, various like niche fields. For example, I'm really interested in algebraic topology, um, and so there are a lot of people that research that. And so what I would do is after I pass my quals, I would go and talk with them, and then we would come up with more of like a joint research thing that I can go write a thesis on. And it's a lot of brainstorming and reading and trying things and failing and trying more. From what I've heard, it sounds very frustrating, but then at the end, it's very fulfilling. And yeah.
Are you going to have to come up with an answer by the end of your doctorate?
I don't really think so. I think you should most definitely have gotten somewhere, at least some headway, or this isn't really the right route we should take.
Yeah,
But I don't think you need to like create a giant theorem or anything like that. No.
right. And why did you choose to go into this subject? Were you always really good at it?
Yes, I was always really good at math. When I was going into my undergrad, I was kind of like, okay, I'll go major in math as a placeholder until I figure out what I really want to do in
Mm,
life, just because I knew I was good at it. And then I got sucked in my freshman year.
right.
Yeah, so
And why do you think you're good at math? Is it you were born with the talent or it grew as you grew?
I think a little bit of both. I've always been very analytical growing up, and that was just numbers have always fascinated me. And so I think it also stems from I've always had really good math teachers.
Right.
And so, for example, my brother, I have a twin brother, and he's also about to graduate with stats
Mhm.
as an
Oh,
undergrad.
wow.
And he, Yeah, so he had a little bit of a different story with math. He kind of struggled in it, and we had very different teachers because I was in the AP stuff and he was more just with our grade. And I think that I just got very lucky with really, really incredible teachers, and they really pushed me to learn a lot. And I just enjoyed being in their classroom, and so I think I enjoyed the subject a lot more. And he didn't really like the teacher, so I think he didn't really like math as much. And then in college, it just changed.
Oh my gosh, this is absolutely fascinating. You're a twin, and your twin is male.
Yes.
So, this is a perfect case study. um, so are you, first of all, are you two kind of identical?
No, we look very different. He's very tall, and I'd say I think I'm like average height. I have
Mhm.
brown hair, brown eyes, and he has very blonde hair and bright blue eyes. And we just looks very different.
Okay, and so, because they always talk about nature nurture. Um,
Hmm.
would you say that you were both born with the same sort of like nurturing uh, in terms of your encouragement into maths?
I think so. My parents they're very supportive of both of us, and they've really been pushing us to do what we want, and we both have always wanted to go to graduate school, and so they're extremely supportive. And like the school sense, I think a little bit of the fact that we're twins kind of impacts us in a way where we're very competitive in with each other,
Mm, yeah.
especially because we're in the same classes for the most part, same schools. We also went to the same college, same university, and
Oh,
yeah, so I think my parents were very supportive, but they also really condoned a very competitive relationship, which probably
mm,
isn't the best in the long run.
yeah. I've got twin sisters.
Wow.
So they're 5 years younger than me. And to be honest, I've always kind of not envied the fact that they've always had someone to compare themselves to.
Yeah, it can it can be frustrating at times. I'm sure he doesn't enjoy it too much because I did graduate in 4 years, and he's taking his fifth year, which there's no problem in that at all. But I think that he doesn't like that his twin sister has graduated in 4 years and he hasn't. I have a full time job now, and so it does create a little bit of a rift between us.
Mm,
Um, I think that once we both get in graduate school at the exact same time, we're going to be fine.
yeah. I mean, what do you think caused the different paths in life? Did you have the same teachers all throughout?
Not the exact same teachers, but we did. I think we stopped having the same teachers maybe in like fifth grade. We were in this. Well, no, actually, we did have the same teachers. We were just because we rotated in that in like middle school. Um,
Mm.
Probably junior high. It was when we actually had our own specific set of teachers.
Right. So I'm wondering, did you get lucky that you got really inspiring maths teachers and he didn't? Or were you interested in math and ended up kind of just finding inspiration yourself because you just had a natural attraction to the subject?
I never really thought about it that way. I guess it could be a little bit of both. I do think some of his teachers weren't the most inspiring of teachers, but
Mhm.
also I did push myself a lot harder to learn, and I went outside of school to try to
Ah,
talk to the teachers and understand, and he didn't really do that. So
yeah.
I would,
Why do you think he didn't do that?
I think he was very lazy in high school. He kind of had the mindset that he was. incredibly smart because he is very, very intelligent, but he doesn't
Hmm.
apply himself. Um, and he kind of just skated by with that until college hit, and then he realized he actually had to apply himself to make good grades. So he's changed his ways now.
Right. It's so fascinating. My gosh. So, from what I'm hearing of your experiences, it's like, yes, it's important to have the talent, but you worked hard and you did that extra legwork to get good in a subject. Like, you were putting in extra time to pursue something. And
Yeah, just because I knew that I really enjoyed it, so why not? You know?
yeah. So, just out of interest, what is your brother good at? Or is he, because it sounds like his attitude was, I'm intelligent, I'm good at something, I'm actually just going to let that do its magic, and that will be enough. Whereas it seems like you had the attitude of, no, I'm good at something, but I'm going to work hard at it. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I think that's fair. He's one of those people that has a very general, just smart. He can understand things very quickly. And so he was really good at physics, and he initially came in as a physics major, just because he could pick that up very, very easily. And
Mm,
so he just skated by. He did extremely well on like the standardized tests, so SAT, ACT. He did really, really well.
mhm,
Um, but once again, not applying himself, he didn't go to, an amazing, amazing school because he waited too long and sent in his test scores way too late, and so he didn't get accepted the first round. So he had to wait a semester and then get reaccepted.
mm.
And so it's like he's extremely intelligent, but yeah, he just doesn't apply himself, or
Gosh,
he didn't.
that is such an important lesson to all of us because I think, um, certainly in the educational system in the UK, often students feel like they need to be born with a talent, and there's less um, education about the fact that it's not just about being born with a talent, it's also about hard work. And for some reason, it sounds like you really understood that, and he less so.
Yeah, I don't know why, because we had the same upbringing. So it's
Yeah,
very interesting.
yeah, really, really interesting. I wonder if that's like I mean, I hate to sort of blame the whole gender argument, but it is really fascinating that with a similar upbringing, being raised in the same family, that one person's attitude could be about, well, I'm smart, so that will see me through. And then another person's attitude is, I'm smart and I'm going to work hard at this. And that's kind of made you excel, is such an inspiring message. Do you think it's fair to say that?
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. I'm trying to think now about how that could be because it is very interesting. I've
Mm,
never really thought about it in that sense before. I wonder if it could be a mixture of that and maybe our personalities. Because I know when we would grow up, if my dad or my mom would ask him to do something, he would always tell me, behind their back, and he would say, if you don't want to do it, just do it really badly, and they won't ask you to do it ever again. And
mm.
so then they would go to me and ask me to do something, and then I would just be like, okay, and then I would just do it the best that I can do because I wouldn't think, oh, I don't want to do it. I would think they want me to do something, I'll do it for them. And so it could be just that's very interesting.
Yeah, really, really interesting. Because, you know, when I was growing up, I always felt like I was never smart enough. I wasn't always the top of the class, and I found school challenging. Um, but the way my parents raised me was, look, you don't need to be super gifted in the subjects you need to get into STEM, but if you work hard, you can still get to the same. destination as someone that is gifted. And so as a result, I ended up working really, really hard and, getting to where I needed to get to. But I mean, my gosh, I did nothing but work nonstop. Um, and so I really understand your mentality. But it's really interesting hearing about someone that is gifted and intelligent and just doesn't apply themselves, and how much that can make a person not excel. I don't want to generalize, but I do feel that maybe it is more of a female characteristic to say, you know what, I'm just going to work really hard. I wonder if it is a female trait to just accept that hard work is something that we have to do.
Maybe, especially because I feel like at times, especially in STEM, with it being male dominated, sometimes I don't know if you feel like this, but I have to feel like I work extra hard just to be as recognized as my male peers, just to at least
Oh, that's so interesting.
be equal. And so maybe it was just like, my parents, they love us both very much, but we've both known from a very young age that, my mom had him as a favorite and my dad had me as a favorite. And then, the mom, like, she runs the household. So really, it was more like he was the favorite of everyone. And so I would have to work extra hard to be like, hey, look at me, I'm just as good. And I think that kind of just carried me throughout life. Just like, hey, look at me, I'm as
Yeah.
good as these guys over here.
Oh, wow. That is so interesting. Yeah, totally. Um, what are your parents like? Are they in STEM?
No, actually, they are both in criminal justice. Oddly enough, my dad, he just retired. He was a state trooper, and my mom is a psychologist at the women's prison in our hometown.
Oh, interesting. So, were they sources of inspiration for you, or did you get inspiration elsewhere?
I would say yes. They were pretty inspiring. My mom, she has a master's, and I think just from a young age, they would always just push us to be as good as we can in academics. For example, when we were younger, if we would, because they knew we were very smart, and if we weren't trying as hard as we could, and we would get, a bad grade, but they knew it was because we were just didn't do our homework or something, then, we would get in trouble. And so that would kind of make us like force us to be like, no, we have to take school seriously so we don't get in trouble. And then, it grew more into both, mainly me. I think my brother, he kind of slacked and they would eventually just let him slack. And so that's also where that kind of instilled a little bit more. But I also had this internalized thing where I have to do as good as I can because, that's just what I want to do. I like to push myself. I want to see how good I can become and what I can do and how far I can go. Um, and so I think it was a mixture of them being so supportive, and they're both extremely smart people as well. And everyone, like my schools, and just me pushing myself.
Mhm.
And I remember when I was like really young, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no idea I wanted to go into math. I didn't know anything, but I did know that I wanted to get a PhD. I was like, that's it. I want to go as far as I possibly can go
Right.
and learn as much as I possibly can
Yeah.
learn. And that was like my life goal.
Yeah. I totally relate to that ambition. But I mean, you can always be a professor.
That's true.
Would you want to go that far?
I'm thinking about that now because in college I was a TA and I absolutely loved it. I loved working
Mm.
with um, at the other college students and teaching and holding office hours and all that. And then I got this job in finance, and it's
Hmm.
for a big company, and I was like, oh, I can't turn that down.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going to go into the industry and then probably go back and go to graduate school and get my PhD. But this kind of year is more of a taste of, do I want to go into the industry post grad or do I want to stay in academia? And I'm really leaning towards staying in academia because
Oh,
I do
really?
not like finance.
Oh, really? Why?
It's a very different atmosphere. It could also be the team that I'm on. I'm on trades, so I work with a lot of traders and stuff,
Hmm.
and it's great for some people. It's very fast paced, very competitive. Like they're not afraid to cut you down
Mm,
if you make a mistake. Like they will showcase it to everyone because they want to eventually, be the top trader, be go higher and higher, and I don't want to be a trader, and I've known that, so it's kind of just like this environment isn't for me.
yeah. So the money doesn't tempt you?
Not really, no,
Interesting.
no,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because with qualifications in math, like you are such hot stuff, particularly for very lucrative careers. So really, the world is your oyster. But it doesn't sound like you're driven by materialism.
no. I would say that's very true. I'm not really driven by that.
So what does drive you then?
Um, I love learning. I think that, and I've been asked this before about what I want to do with my life if you take out all pay. Like none of that matters at all. Just what do you want to
Yeah.
do? And my answer is always like I would want to be a student for the rest of my life because I just love learning. I think it's just you can never stop learning. If my brain isn't working or being used in any capacity, I get really sad, and I didn't realize that until I started working because the job, especially the first couple of months, was a lot of learning to understand the industry, especially because I don't have a business background, so it was a lot of learning.
Mm,
But then when I got those like daily tasks down, and I can go to work and go on autopilot and just not think all day. And I would go home
mm,
and be so sad because I'm not thinking, and I didn't know that was why
yeah.
until randomly I went out with some of my friends. We went to a happy hour to support our friend he was being a guest bartender, raising money for cancer research. So we were
Mm,
there talking to him. It was great, and for some reason getting my PhD got brought up, and one of my peers is just like, go do it. And I was like, okay. And for some reason, that lit a fire under my butt. I immediately went home and I got out my Princeton math GRE subject book and I started reading. And I was just so happy. And that's when I realized, like, okay, yeah, I need to go back like right now.
oh gosh, I totally understand you. I get you so much. Like I I just completely understand where you're coming from. Like learning, evolving, growing, and contributing to humanity's development in our understanding of the world we live in is just such a driver for me too. I also don't want to ever stop learning, and so I really understand where you're coming from. And often people are like, but what about making money and having a sort of, I don't know, like a lifestyle where you can have anything you want. And it's like, who cares? As long as you've got enough to live a comfortable life. Like, what,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, yeah, I totally get it. What have your colleagues on your course been like?
They were great. Most of them were male, and then a few female. And they were all just really great people. They were, especially when you get into more upper level courses, you see the same people because you're getting more in depth into your major, and the math department isn't the biggest department on campus. So we really had a community, and it was really good because we all had similar course schedules, similar classes, and we would go into our math lounge in our math department that mainly only math majors would either know about
Mm,
and would go study, and we would just hang out there and just learn math. Like we would teach each other from our other courses, and we would ask each other questions, and it was really just like a no judgmental. It was room, and it was really a good environment. It was great.
It doesn't sound like the gender issue was even a thing for you. It's like, yeah, they're male, so what kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I see it as really that gender issue. I've never really seen that from peers, oddly enough, not in math specifically. In my work, in my job, yes,
Yeah.
I do see that most definitely.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, that's so interesting.
yes. But in,
Why is there a difference in industry compared to academia?
I'm not sure. I think that maybe I got lucky in undergrad and we just had really, really good group of people. I met the right people, or it is very different because like in school, it felt like a community and felt like we were in it together. We were all struggling together. But in
Mm,
my job, it's competitive, so it's very much like I don't care at all about you, and some of them would say stuff like, "Oh, you're a woman. That's the only reason why you're here because my job is really driving getting 50-50 and getting women in."
mm.
They would
I
really
hate that. Yeah.
undertake that and say, "I'm
Mm.
only here because I'm a woman," and I'm like, "Okay, well, that's not."
How did you cope with that?
Um, I just kind of like internalize it, like brush it off. I don't react, but also like in a way internalize it and light a fire and just like I'm gonna prove you wrong. You know, like one day I'm gonna take your job. Like that's kind of that. It would like it drives me a lot
Yeah.
more. You know, just like to show you like no, I worked for this. Like yes, I'm a woman, and they look at me because I'm the only woman on this floor. So obviously I'm going to draw attention, but it's how you use that attention that's very important. I could, with all these eyes, I could crumple under the pressure, but I don't.
Yeah.
I perform, I outperform, and so that's why I'm here. And so I just try to show it through my work.
Gosh, I wish I'd had your attitude when I was in engineering. Because it is a lot of pressure when you're getting those kinds of comments. It can really make one doubt um, oneself, and it can also make you question whether you should be in this industry at all. First of all, it sounds like academia has just been such a nurturing, fertile place to grow, and industry has not been like that. So, do you reckon that's why you're going back to do a PhD, or because there is also the combination of doing a PhD whilst working, like you can be a sponsored PhD student. Is that something you ever considered?
Not really. I know that some of the senior managers would suggest something like that, but I think that I want to be solely focused on getting my PhD, rather than having a split responsibilities. I feel like maybe that would overwhelm me too much, or I just wouldn't get um, what I'm really looking for out of a
Mm.
PhD. Get that environment, get those connections, and really immerse
Yeah.
myself in math and in the subject that I want to go into.
Yeah, I mean, actually, on that note, like you, your work and doing a PhD in maths does sound extremely creative. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think that math is creative. I've never really thought of myself as creative, but I do also think math is creative, oddly enough. I would agree with that.
Yeah. Having to come up with ideas, new theories, thinking differently, laterally. I mean, once you do get your PhD, what's the plan after that?
I'm thinking about, yeah, probably being a professor, staying
Mm,
in academia in that realm. maybe continuing research if I, absolutely love something. Um, I think that would be probably the best spot for me, especially with seeing how the industry is. It's great, but it's not somewhere that I think I can grow as much as I could grow.
Or let me ask that again. Do you think industry has a place for women in STEM subjects?
I think they're trying to. I think they're, yeah, it's a lot. It's very difficult. Um, and I can see from senior management that, they are trying. And for example, the other day, one of them said that, they're being encouraged to have, 50-50 in new hires as women, women and men. And they would just be so upset because they're like, well, I only have like 10% of the applicants are women. So how am I supposed, like, do I just hire all of them and then only match that 10% with the men? How do I, um, so I think they're trying, but um, it's very scary as well for women to apply just because it is so male dominated and it's very cutthroat
Mm,
and very competitive. Uh, and I would say, men do have somewhat of an upper hand because there's so many other men and they'll just talk about sports and it's a boys club. If you want to talk about
mm,
sports, it's
yeah.
noticed. It's not a boys club. It's not a fun banter. It's like, oh, she wants to talk about sports because we're talking about sports.
Mm, yeah, it's so awkward.
It is.
I mean, how can we really resolve it? I really don't know what to tell people when they ask, like, how can we achieve gender parity um, in STEM subjects? Because I'm like, because it can't be easy listening to people say, "Oh, you're only here because we're trying to increase the quota of women." Like, who wants to sort of work in an environment like that? You know?
Hmm.
Um, and often in my podcasts, the conclusion is that it's not female attitudes we need to change; it's actually male attitudes towards us. So,
Oh yeah.
how would you advise male? How would you advise men from your experiences to encourage more women to pursue their STEM dreams?
I would say just be honestly kind and supportive. That goes so far because there are so many people that are very kind and very supportive that I work with, and there are a lot of people that
Mm,
aren't, and they would make those comments because maybe they're just um, their ego is hurt because I got complimented more than they did, or something like that, or I'm doing better than them, so they have to cut me down. But if they turn that around and said,
mhm.
oh, like great job, like that's it, that alone would be so like that would be amazing. Just being supportive and being kind and treating us like your coworkers because that's what we are.
Yeah.
Like
Why do you think they don't? What's stopping them from being kind and supportive?
I think some of it is they're intimidated. Um, Most definitely. And I think it could also stem from, oh, but this is a male job and you're here and you're doing it better. Like, what? And I think it's maybe that's also their environment that they've been around. They think, oh, yes, this is men should do this. So she should not be here. And they just go with it. Or it could be so many different things.
Yeah, I mean, listening to you, it sounds, and also mixing my own experiences in there, it really does feel actually that men shut us out because they're threatened by us, which is fascinating because, physically we are the sort of weaker sex generally. And yet, given what is potentially between our ears, it can be very threatening for men.
Oh yeah. I think also it goes to how everything is transitioning to getting more equality. Um, and maybe they're thinking, oh, she's going to have a lot more opportunities than me. I need to cut her down so then she won't have those opportunities and I can have them. That could also
Yeah.
play a part.
But what's crazy is that we're always up for less opportunity generally. Um, and it's like, it's not even that we're given equal opportunity, we're given less opportunity than most people because I don't know, like we have to consider other things. Like, for example,
Hmm.
with starting a family, um, generally, women have to take 9 months out to grow that baby in their bodies. Like, that is
Hmm.
not a compromise. We can't just say, oh, the guy will do it. It's like we absolutely have to take that time out. And career wise, it can be really difficult fitting that in. What are your first of all, what are your sort of plans on that side of things? Like, are you hoping one day you might have a family?
Um, Not really. And I can't foresee myself having children. I'm sure maybe that will change in the future, but right now I can't really imagine myself having that just because, and I think also this goes into how we do have to take time off and be with our kids and raise them and all that stuff. And I don't feel like I would want to take that time away because I do want to do all these
Mm,
things in my life. And I feel like I wouldn't be able to spare enough time to like really pour into
mm,
another human being. And so I'm not really planning on that as
that's
of
so
now.
interesting. Yeah. Because I think we've also, generations before your generation, there was an expectation that women should have kids. Like, it wasn't even a question of whether you wanted them or not. It was like expected of women. And I think that's really affected their career choices. But maybe in your generation, how old are you, by the way?
I'm 22.
Right. So, like, maybe in your generation, it's like, you know, you can do whatever makes you happy. Um, and so it's really refreshing to hear someone that doesn't have that guilt of previous generations in having to have a family and stuff like that. Um, do you think mathematics could fulfill you then for the rest of your life?
I think so. I think with the environment that usually comes with it, um, most definitely. It's very, from what I've seen, it's collaborative. Yes, it is, competitive in a way, but I think it's a different kind of competition, um, rather than I will cut you down immediately just to get a little bit of praise. It's more of just like I don't want to share my secrets with you just in case you use them to to create this gigantic beautiful theorem. Um, but I do think it has a really good community.
Mm, yeah, you do sound highly evolved, I must say. I mean, it's just so fascinating that you can go into industry and get that kind of experience and just go, yeah, you know what, this isn't for me. I want to go back to academia. I mean, I feel like I'm talking to a true mathematician, like where mathematics is running through your veins.
Maybe one day. That would be great.
Yeah. Does it consume your life?
Oh, yes, I love math so much. I went so I before I took the math subject Youre for the past like maybe for the first 3 months I was working, every day I would go home and I would get home at like 8, 9 p.m. and I would study for at least an hour just I would sit down, and because that's what would get me through really the day is like I have to go home and I have a purpose and I have to study. And so I would go home and that's what I would do,
Mm.
and go to bed, and I'd be happy the next day. And it was great.
Yeah, it sounds like you were having fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah, those were the best parts of my days because work was rough, and so those were my breaks. Was when I would go study.
Oh, wow. I mean, do you know other girls like you? Like, or were you very different at school amongst your female peers?
Um, I do know a few women that are like me, but I would say that we were a little bit different than some of the other girls. We really It was mainly one other woman that was really like me, and she's getting her PhD in math right now. And she's amazing. We would just cling to each other. We would hang out all the time and just study. Like we both had giant whiteboards in our rooms, and we would take them to the other's house and just like work and study and just hang out. And some of the other girls, they didn't really want to do that. They would, want to go talk to boys and do all this stuff. And us two would just be like, oh, that's so awesome. Like, that's great. And then we would just go in a room and start studying.
Gosh, you're so lucky to have found each other.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We've really pushed each other.
Yeah.
She's
Why do you think girls don't go into math?
I'm not sure because I never really felt like I shouldn't go into math. I've always, my parents have always been encouraging. So I'm not too sure about that. Maybe it is scary. Maybe they want to do, um, they think math is just, I've gotten so many comments about people would ask how, what research is there in math because math is just math. It's just calculus that you learn in high school, and there's nothing more to it. And maybe that's what they think because, I never learned what a proof was. I didn't know what a proof was until college. So how would I know what true mathematics is? So maybe they have never seen anything like that, so they didn't know they were interested in it. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's great. Everyone should go.
Hmm. Yeah. Did you never kind of question the fact that you weren't in the majority?
Not really. I didn't think about it. Um, I never, I think at one point I did notice it. I was in an analysis course, and I did realize I was the only woman out of like 15 students. I was the only woman there. And so I was like, oh, this is very interesting because I've never been just me. It's, there's always been that one other girl or someone around.
Mm.
Um, but I remember that one. That was, I think it was junior year. And that was when I think when I realized, like, oh, okay, I am a little odd for being the only, like, this is, I see now. But before that, I never paid attention. I just, I think about it.
Mm. Yeah, it's so interesting to me. Like, a lot of us are so keen on being part of a group and being part of a crowd and to be popular and have friends and, you know, sort of be liked and loved. And you seem to want other things. And I just find that so fascinating that you're not. Um, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you're not bothered about what other people think of you.
Yeah, I would say that's for the most part true. I do care, obviously, like
Mm,
family and friends, and um, most definitely I care about my superiors in a way. So like people that I just extremely respect because I just think, oh, you are so intelligent. I know that I want
mm,
you to think that I'm intelligent as well. I do care in that sense. Um, but also it has changed a little bit. So whenever I was a freshman, I remember, so I actually came in as a biology major because my dad made me change because he thought I was a people person. And so I was like, okay, I'll respect you. I'll change because he was helping me through college. So, I'm going to give it my best shot. Um, I shadowed someone and I passed out because I saw blood. So we figured biology is not my route. And so I was allowed to go back to math until I figured something else out. Um,
Mm.
and so I remember when switching, I talked to a math advisor, and the advisor told me that I wasn't smart enough to get a PhD. So, and I had a 4.0 too, and she told me I wasn't smart enough to get a PhD. I shouldn't even try to go into pure mathematics. And so that like really
Wow.
hit me hard because it was an advisor. She's seen so many people. She was an old
Yeah.
person, so she's been there for so long. So I that hit me hard. And then when
Mm.
I went,
Was she wrong? Mm. Given everything I've heard of you, she just sounded plain wrong.
oh yeah, I think she's wrong. I think that I am intelligent enough to get a PhD, or at least I'm going to try my hardest.
Mm.
Um, but at that time, I didn't think she was wrong. It got really in my head. Um, and then when I went home that summer, I got into a fatal car accident, and I couldn't walk for 3 months, and I was in a neck brace for 3 months. And the doctors told me repeatedly that I was extremely lucky to be alive and
Gosh.
that I was meant to do something because like that's how close they were. They're like, you're meant to do something because you should be dead right
Oh my
now.
gosh.
And so like after that, yeah, I was like, this is it. I'm gonna not care what people think, what if they think I'm not smart, if they think I can't handle it, and I'm just gonna go for it. And so I think that's where my mentality is now because of that.
Wow. Got goosebumps. Yeah. That attitude shift sounds like it changed everything. Yes, you had a car accident and that was the moment where things changed, but really it was your attitude shift that that changed things.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I wouldn't have the job I have right now if I didn't have that accident. It didn't have that attitude change because I wouldn't have thought that I would be good enough to
Mm.
actually get the job because it is a big corporation. So I would not have applied. And I did apply because I was like, sure, we'll see what happens. And now I have the job just because of that.
So what is that attitude? Because it sounds like you are unstoppable. Like if you want something, you're going to get it. Like what is that attitude? Because I want to have it, you know?
um, it's more of just I know what I want out of life. I have very set goals, and I'm not going to let someone deter me from getting them. And I'm gonna work hard and just to achieve my goals because um, whenever I set my mind, I said it's not for example PhD. It's to me it's not like oh I will eventually get it, maybe I'll get it. It's like no, I'm going to have my PhD. Like it's just settled.
Mm.
Like I know I'm gonna have it. It's just now I have to work for that, but it's gonna happen.
And how do you get through other people's negativity and kind of people trying to drag you down? Like, what powers you through?
I think them being negative um, kind of powers me in of itself in a way. It generally makes me frustrated because I feel like I'm intelligent. I feel like I can do these things. So why are you telling me that I can't? And so like that, and it
Yeah.
frustrates me, and then it's gonna push me harder.
Yeah, it's so important that you have that because, even today, I still get um, other people's attitudes where they're like, nah, you'll never make it. You'll never do it. You'll never try it. You'll never be able to, you shouldn't do it. You're a woman. It's just like, and it's kind of like dragging lead weights
Oh
around with
yeah,
you. And like, for me, I've put more effort in trying to shake off other people's doubt and negativity then I've had to shake off my own doubt and negativity. Like, I've often believed in myself when nobody else would. And but I must say, it does make me extremely frustrated and angry sometimes, where I'm like, why does the whole world think I can't do this when I know I can?
Hmm.
And sometimes it's really got to me to the point where I'm like, maybe I should just give up. I'm gonna give up, you know. And then, something just switches in me where I'm like, no, you know what? I'm going to prove people wrong. Like, what kind of process have you gone through when people just haven't backed you up?
I think it would most definitely be similar. It's yeah, if someone was like, "No, you can't. Sorry, you can't do that. I don't think you're capable of doing that. Like you shouldn't even try." Um I usually just get really frustrated and then that turns to like anger. It's like, no, why would you tell me that? That makes no sense. You're not speaking coherently. That doesn't make any sense at all. And sometimes I'll say that in a nice way. I was like, I don't believe that at all. Or, I'll just say like, oh, thank you for letting me know. Um, and then go home and then just research whatever, look more into what I want to do or vent to my mom, and then my mom's really supportive, so she'll just be like, okay, go do it, and I'm like, okay, I'll go do it.
Yeah.
uh,
I guess it is
yeah.
really important to have someone in your corner, right?
Oh yeah, yes, most definitely. My parents are so supportive, and I think it would be a much harder journey if they weren't so supportive.
Mm, yeah. Okay, so it's clear that it's really important to have like a support network, or at least someone that believes in you and someone you can kind of go to get pumped when you're feeling a little bit um, weary. But what else would you advise, like if you were to give any other girls in STEM advice, like what would you advise that they do to excel in what they've chosen?
I would say most definitely find like a mentor or someone, and that's what I did my freshman year. I had a calculus professor, and immediately his class was what drew me into math. And so after that semester, every single semester, if I had a question um, about a course or anything, I would go to him, and he would explain things because he knew how I learned. And then that developed into an actual like mentor mentee relationship. And then I became his TA, and he's writing rec letter for me, and it's grown. And so I think that it's important to find someone that's also around you that knows the industry, knows like where you're going to, knows what subject you want to go
Mm,
into, what have you, that can really advise you properly, because he most definitely is like, no, I think that this avenue probably isn't the best fit just because this and that, and then you can take that advice in and process it, and obviously you make your own decision. But I would advise to try to find someone
mm,
that you could talk to that would help
yeah,
you.
yeah. I think sometimes there's this assumption that girls in STEM need women in STEM mentors and role models. But that hasn't been the case for a lot of my guests, where they say that the people that they really looked up to were just great people. It didn't matter if they were male or female.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because at the end of the day, and hopefully eventually there will be equality, and you won't really see like specifically, oh, I need to search for a female, so then we can connect in that sense. I don't think it should really matter who your mentor is, because as long as you have someone in your corner, and you have someone looking out for you, I think that's really what matters, and someone that inspires you. I think the inspiration is a lot more important than ensuring that you find someone female, or someone, if you're male to male, like to match you.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's a really important point to make because often if young women in particular have male mentors, um, there's this kind of raised eyebrow, like, she's looking up to a male mentor, like maybe there's something going on there. And it's like, I think, first of all, there is that risk that, it might not be a connection that has integrity. But so there is that danger, right? But I think
Yeah.
it's really important for young women to seek out people that truly inspire them on a purely platonic basis. And there are men out there and women that exist that can just really inspire. And that is it.
Oh yeah. No, I agree.
Do you think that you've ever been in danger of being taken advantage of as a young, enthusiastic woman in STEM?
Um, I don't really think so, but also I don't really put as much weight on things, I guess. Nothing's ever like I've never been in an uncomfortable situation,
Mm,
which I am very grateful for. I think I can easily see how someone could be, as naive and as excited as I am about everything. I most definitely can see how that situation could happen,
mm.
but I'm very grateful it has never happened. I've never been uncomfortable, never been in a situation like that.
Yeah. I mean, listening to you is it's just been so inspiring because I really feel like you genuinely love what you do and that you're at an age where you're genuinely exploring your options and figuring out what you want for your life. I mean, it's such an exciting time. And also at your tender age, I'm also hearing the importance of choosing your mentors wisely and carefully, but making sure you do have people that are in your corner who can lead the way, but also back you up on your decisions and believe in you. But what I found most fascinating about talking to you today is the fact that you have such a strong sense of who you are and what you want. And that seems to have been your biggest guiding light. Um, how does that sound as a sort of like summary of the kind of person you are? I mean, you know yourself better than anyone else. So,
I think I would agree with that. I'm still, obviously trying to figure out who I am, but I think that, I'm still very young as well, so there's so much more to learn. But I
mm,
really feel like I have learned a lot about myself, and more than just like learning about myself, I'm okay with myself. I don't, think, oh, well, I like this, like, dang, why I should like this and not that, or what have you. I'm, I'm very accepting of myself
mm,
and happy with myself, and I think that goes a long way. Because I know a lot of people, and I'm still, obviously struggling with that in a way, but I think I'm fairly happy with everything about myself, which is, I think, very important.
what an absolutely beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much for coming on this show.
Thank you for having me.
That's it from my STEM guest this week. What an incredible message to end the episode. And that is a message of really, truly accepting yourself as who you are today. We can all have ambitions, we can all have dreams for what we want to achieve in the future. But if you don't have an acceptance of who you are in this present moment, you don't really have the power to drive you forward. And so, in listening to my guest today, I've really taken home that message, which is that love yourself for who you are in this moment, and you will never ever fail to be happy and content with your life today. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to rate and review the show, and catch you next week on Scilence.